Hi friends, I wanted to share with you a video on measurement just to give you a peek on how we did some of the measurement in class, and if you want to do some measurement activities at home with your kids, how you can kind of do what we did in class and do it at home as well. So I guess first off, measuring cups and measuring spoons, we used both of these in class. I'll lean in a little bit. So we used both of these in class. And one of the things I really like about this particular, and these were dollar store. So again, I got these from the dollar store. Whatever measuring cups you have at home, they will work too. Whatever measuring spoons you have at home, those will work too. But here's what I like about these. I like these because they nest. So what that means is it's a stacking activity if you want it to be. And also they come with a snap clip on it, so you can work on some of the small motor control. As you can see, there's a little tab that they need to be hung on and to snap them closed in order to organize them. So it does have a puzzle element to it. For some students, this is going to be straightforward, but if you're going to do some small motor practice, why not do it with cooking utensils? I mentioned the color coding. Now the coding is arbitrary. There's no reason why each of these are colored differently. And the only challenge I will say is that they're color coded the exact same way on the cups. So, but there isn't a relationship between the pink one over here and the pink one over here. It's just the color coding that they chose. If you want to attach meaning to it, by all means, attach meaning to it. It just, when I think about using color as part of the organizational tool, I wouldn't necessarily go there. Okay, so like these, dollar store measuring cups, they nest, they clip together, which means that you have a little bit of small motor exercise control. The thing that I will say right on the front end is that the measurement on it, so the measurement indicator on it is very, well, it's not highlighted at all, okay? So I don't even know if that can be seen. It's just kind of imprinted on it, and it's very fine. So I had similar measuring cups in the classroom. So what I did was I took a Sharpie. Okay, I took a Sharpie and I wrote right on the handle, so right here, I wrote right on the handle what the measurement was. Now, often, and this is sort of a decision you have to make in the house, often whatever you write on here, I would suggest, okay, so these things often have a imperial measurement and a metric measurement. Decide the lesson you want to work with your kids on. If you use the metric measurement, then this is a measurement of milliliters. If you use the imperial measurement on it, then it becomes a measure of cups. And again, it's you decide your system how you want to do it. We in the class tended to lean on the imperial measurement. So over here, these were all not milliliter volume measurements. They were actually all like tablespoon, teaspoon. And each one of these in class, I would have written right on it, whether it was half a teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, and for teaspoon, I used TSP. For tablespoon, I used TBSP. Okay, so teaspoon, TSP, and tablespoon, TB as in Bob, SP. Okay, so yeah, so you can rewrite the measurement on it. Just to recap, rewrite the measurement on it. Consider which one you want to use. The second layer to this that can make this kind of a bit of a hidden challenge is that recipes flip-flop as well, right? So if there's the extra money that you have, if you have some extra change, and again, this is just if there's the change and you want to invest in this. If you're to get 2 sets of each, what that means is you could label one with the imperial, and then the second set of it, label it with the metric. And the same thing would go with this. So what that would mean is if you encounter a recipe, so when you, I'm going to show you the practice skill here, but if you take it to the next level where you're working through a recipe with your child, you would just grab the one that had, you know, that you would need for the recipe. Oh, this recipe is imperial, we're going to use the imperial. And I guess in that case, that's where the color coding would come in handy, because you would know that the two purple cups, measuring cups, are the same measurement, it's just measured two different ways. You make this as complex or as easy as you need to. So Sharpie, write the actual measurement on here, the one that you want to have on there. And the great thing is then when the student, you may even want to write it on both sides, if you write it on both sides of the handle. So then no matter the orientation, it's going to be seen. What I wouldn't recommend is, I do have some in the classroom that I did this with, but I don't use them for food. What I did was I wrote right down inside the cup, 1 cup. But that was for the measurement bins that I have. So these would be activity bins that I'm not using the measuring cups for items that we're going to be eating. They're like practice measurement. Again, just some little ideas that you can do at home, okay? So once you have your measuring either spoons, either your measuring spoons or, I'm not even keeping those in camera. So the measuring spoons or the measuring cups, one of the activities that you can do is, if you have containers, this will work with containers, this will work with Ziploc bags as well. The actual activity that we had in class, when we were practicing to do measurements, what I had were Ziploc bags with labels on them, and on it I would have 1 cup. So this would be for a student that was just starting to do the use of the cup measuring cup. So I would write 1 cup on here, they would grab the 1 cup measuring cup, and then they would put 1 scoop inside the 1 cup bag. There's another version of this one. If your child is just working through the mechanics of scooping, which can be an activity all into itself, what you can put on here, I found it online. I don't know of a really great short way to do this, but basically what I did is I printed out a picture that had just a picture of a scoop on it. And if I wanted the student to put, if there were 3 pictures on here of the scoop, that meant that they would do 3 scoops. 1, 2, 3. So they're matching the pictures of the scoop on here. If your student is reading and you just write the word 3 scoops, you can work on that. If your child is reading but might not be able to put together the number 3 and the word scoop or cup, then you would have it written on here to help them out, okay? The measuring spoons, I worked the exact same way. When I had the practice materials for measuring spoons, I used rice, just straight up rice, because the items were small enough to fit inside of the bowl of the measuring spoons. As far as the practice material for the measuring cups, you know what I like to use is Ditalini, apologies, but it's basically the small soup pasta, the little small tube pasta. Any pasta will work. Any item will work. I didn't want to put a non-edible in there in case the student did eat some of the pasta. And I thought to myself, worst case scenario, if they're crunching on some pasta, it's not great, but it's not a deal breaker, okay? Last thing, if you don't have labels to label up your bags, you can always use masking tape, okay? You can always use masking tape. And what you may want to consider if you're trying to make this work for home style in your house is have a look through your cupboard. One of the recipes that we did use in class, we used one of these mixes. So this is an oatmeal muffin mix, but you can find different mixes altogether. And then what I would do is I would look on the side to see whether or not there was opportunity to use measuring cup and measuring spoon. Now the great thing about this particular product, it does have the opportunity to use measuring cup. It doesn't have the opportunity to use measuring spoon. So if you found even two recipes, both so that you know that the students could get some practice with it, but also recipes that they would prefer. So something that they're more likely to engage in. And by doing that, then you can slowly get the practice of using the spoons, the measuring spoons and measuring cups in, okay? So just quick recap, dollar store measuring cups and measuring spoons. I like them because they do nest, which gives you a little bit of a puzzle feel, a little bit of a nesting activity to get them all in order. I like that there's a snap clip on here, so that gives them some fine motor control to put them together. If you want to, depending on the ones that you get, if you find that the writing on here is too small, you can write the actual measurement on the front. I would recommend even putting it on the back because you never really know where your child's hand's gonna be in the measurement. If it's gonna be for food product production, I wouldn't write it on the actual bowl of the scoop because the ink could come off on the food, okay? But if you're doing this just as a pure practice, you could put it in there and the students are familiar with that. If you want to practice portioning, you could use portion bags, and I had mentioned before, you can just take masking tape and label it up. Just make sure that however you're labeling it, it matches up to however you label these, so that you have a nice clean system, okay? You can also use, to be honest, you could also use containers if you have old Tupperware containers. If you look through some recipes that your kids love to make, then I would suggest that the portion bags or whatever portioning containers you put together, make them based on the recipes that your kids might be more likely to use. We have done the oatmeal muffins in class, and it did give the kids an opportunity to use the measuring cups. Last thing I'll say, this activity entirely works with whatever measuring tools you have in the house. You can take one part of this, you could use the regular larger measuring cup. One of the things that I found is that sometimes with the larger measuring cup, doing the having to eyeball the side to get the right level can be a little bit tricky, but hey, if it's worth investing the time and the effort, go for it. One last thing that you can do. In a previous video, I talked about chopping up, I think, carrots and cucumbers. If your child is comfortable with the activity of measurement, so they get good at using the measuring cups, when you're in the carrot or celery or cucumber prep mode and they're putting it into a bag, you could consider maybe having several bags. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna prep up some vegetable for the week. So you could have Monday written on here, 1 cup of cucumber. So then what the students is getting used to is kind of prepping up vegetables for the week and putting together something that could be a salad for the family. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope that this is helpful in moving some of the skills forward at home. I really appreciate your time, and I'll talk with you soon. Take care.